Hi, my name's Charlie Smigelski. I've been a dietitian here in the Boston area for just about 40 years. And for 30 of those years, I've been working in infectious disease. One of the projects I was involved with in the mid to later 90s was at Tufts Medical School. Dr. Sherwood Gorbach asked me to come help him write an HIV nutrition newsletter because it was Dr. Gorbach's feeling that infectious disease docs and most of medicine didn't appreciate how dynamic the role of nutrition was in helping a body fight a chronic infection. Now remember back for the first 15 years of HIV's pandemic stuff here on the planet, we had no decent medicines. So it really was about helping the body recover from each insult. And I'm putting this video together and the website. You might be finding this by way of the website that I created, Covid19nutrition.org. So COVID 19, the integers 19, nutrition.org. And that a couple things have particularly provoked me in the last few weeks. 2 weeks ago, the Washington Post had an article that says, don't go to a health food store. There's nothing there. We don't have anything in all of medicine that really boosts the immune system. And then just last week, New York Times article, don't go to a health food store. You could be more harmed there than you could be helped. Well, nothing could be further from the truth, especially for the New Yorkers, because of the latitude that they live on. I'll explain that in a minute. But at any rate, I want to be clear. I'm not going to make suggestions about nutrients that slay the virus. There's nothing antiviral. I don't have a vaccine either. But what I have is some wicked smat advice about helping your system deal with a COVID-19 assault better. Okay? I want to give you a quick science lesson. And the science lesson is that you have two parts to your immune system. One is your innate immune system, and the other is the acquired immune system. The innate immune system is really good at surveillance in the body. It can pick up DNA gone bad. It can pick up a fungus, a bacteria, a virus, even a splinter in your finger. So it's going to be what greets this COVID-19 infection. Some of the more prominent cells of that are called macrophages, macro, big, phage, eat macrophages. Okay? And they're going to hand off the project of really slaying or containing this virus to your acquired immune system. Well, you've already seen all the sprockets that are on the model of COVID-19. All those things are like razor blade clusters, and one of the troubling parts about this virus is that all those things can penetrate into cells in a hurry and helps the virus start replicating in a hurry, so you get an explosion of viral growth, very high viral load in not too many days. So the very first concept that I want you to understand in nutrition approach to all of this is your vitamin D levels are crucial to how robust your innate immune response is going to be to this initial scourge of COVID-19 invasion. Now, the thing that vitamin D, and particularly, like I said, meaning for New Yorkers in the catchment area of this obnoxious New York Times article, is that if you're living in North America above the 39th degree or 37, I can't remember exactly which, parallel, the longitudinal line, or latitudinal line, is that that's a line about Richmond, Denver, and St. Louis. So chances are you could have low vitamin D levels. Worcester Polytech kids published a paper a couple of years ago here, Worcester's near me, that 45% of people have low vitamin Ds in the Worcester area, and it gets worse as people get older and are more shut in. So, like I said, how well your macrophage innate immune cells are going to jump on this virus is really a function of adequate vitamin D. Now, here's a great example for you. You know, we worry about the flu in general in the winter, and there's already people talking about, well, we hope that this COVID-19 will go away with the warmer weather and the flu, the way the flu does, because there's more moisture in the air, your nasal membranes are better. What helps the flu go away is the return of decent ultraviolet light, an adequate that buffs up your immune system. There is a flu season in the tropics. There's plenty of moisture in the tropics, especially because the flu season is the rainy season. The problem is that it's dark. So there's this huge global, petri dish that says vitamin D matters to respiratory infections, flu. Now, the flu is not the same as COVID-19, but all I'm saying is COVID-19 does invade you and require a robust response of your innate immune system. So, take some vitamin D. Now, the RDA is already known as quite wimpy. There's not a full agreement about how much to take, but I'm going to suggest at least 2,000 units. Now, they're changing the reference range right now, so that's actually 50 micrograms. But the idea is at least start with 2,000 units. You're not going to find a doctor with any extra time and energy right now that's going to test your blood levels. And we certainly know many people that are taking 4,000 or 5,000 units a day, and their levels are still kind of It'd be nice if your levels were mid-range at 50 micrograms per liter. I'm just saying, make sure you're getting a couple of thousand units per day, 50 micrograms a day, so that we have that covered until you're out in the sunshine again in June. Again, it's a function of UV light. One of my dietitian friends from New Jersey and sort of asked me the other day, well, listen, I'm out in the sunshine, I'm getting, half-hour sunlight on my skin. That's nice, but the idea is, especially, there's, the UV index right now still in March is like 1, 2, maybe 3. Not enough in a small area, small amount of time to make enough vitamin D for you. All right, so that's innate immune. Now we're talking about the acquired immune system that's going to do the yeoman's work of really squelching this virus. Acquired immune system, again, has two parts. There's what you call the Th1 response and Th2. So if we think about Th1, the part 1 response, I'm going to say that that's really Pac-Man cells, cytotoxic T lymphocytes, CD8 cells, whatever you want to call it. But the idea is your goal is that you want great vision and sharp teeth for those guys, all right? So there's 3 ways to know and really know that those guys are going to do good and really support them. And that is, you want to make sure you've got decent zinc levels and decent selenium levels and decent glutathione levels. Now, you might not know about glutathione. You might be sharp and you do. But glutathione is this major antioxidant enzyme of the body. And glutathione supports eyeballs, lungs, liver, kidneys, and helps prevent red blood cells from too much free radical stray electron damage, and helps one of the things against anemia. But the idea is, so zinc, selenium, and glutathione. Now, zinc, hey, do you think you have a decent amount of zinc in you? Well, the people that are at risk for that are vegetarians, vegans, and people that took the don't eat beef, don't eat red meat message to heart, and therefore they're not eating red meat. And red meat is the best source, besides oysters, for zinc in the American diet. You're not getting it in fish and chicken, and yes, you're getting some in kidney beans, lentils, and chickpeas. We already know, unless you're vegetarian, most people aren't eating much of that, and there's not even enough to keep you well supported. So I just want you to think like, okay, either I'm going to start having grass-fed organic beef a couple times a week, or a little more oyster stew, or that you're going to just get a multivitamin that has the RDA, the kind of recommended allotment of zinc. Now that can be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You don't have to go over 15 milligrams of zinc in what you're getting. Don't do a mega dose. You might be getting zinc lozenges. I think those are often like 2 to 3 milligrams a day. So that might be enough to support what you're doing. But one other set of people where you might have pretty good zinc intake and all that stuff, if you still have mercury, silver amalgams in your teeth, that mercury leaches out and it gets in the way of where the Pac-Man cells would have had sharper, more useful zinc, and therefore your immune cells aren't going to be wimpier than you would like. That's another whole long story beyond this video, but I'm just saying, you think you're doing pretty good. If you've still got mercury around, figure out that I'm going to need some more. Get an extra 20, 30 mgs a day. All right, so there's zinc. Next, now we're talking about selenium. Selenium, if we do all the big surveys, most people seem like they're eating enough selenium. But now, once in a while, you get some blood test studies that are done going, all I can say is by the time you get to 50% of the people in any kind of study there are low in selenium. Now, there's like, don't take too much selenium, it's toxic. Yes, it's true. But all I'm saying is 20, 50, 25, 50 micrograms in your multivitamin, multimineral pill would be nice. If you were going to supplement, don't go over 200. There's just no need to. But I want to point out some kind of interesting little science thing, which is Ebola and HIV first took hold in the selenium-deficient soil regions of Africa, like Zaire. Kishan's disease, Kishan province in China, Coxsackie virus, China. The flu virus mutates in the selenium-deficient soil regions of China. So the deal being, make sure you've got some selenium on board, all right? Now, so I've already talked about vitamin D, zinc, and selenium. I don't want you to have to rush out and buy a whole lot of stuff. There's a company called Life Extension Foundation. I don't know if you can see this, LEF, Life Extension Foundation. They make this 2 per day tablets, 2 per day capsules, same product. Vitamin, I think it's about $18 for a 2-month supply, so a $9 a month supply that gets you vitamin D, zinc, selenium. It also has a decent, stress tab in it. When you're multiplying more cells, like you need, pregnant women take a B complex pregnancy vitamin to make more red blood cells. Well, people fighting a virus could use some more B complex as well. So that's built in too. That's why you'll see yourself peeing yellow when you take this. Don't think like, oh, what's wrong with me? It's some little extra riboflavin. But when you are fighting something, you'll notice like, oh, I'm sucking all that up. So at any rate, a smart multivitamin, not expensive, but it covers these bases that I'm talking about. Again, it'll be in the Covid-19.org website, easily laid out for you to see there. So, next, couple more pieces of science lesson. When your innate immune system is telling your Th1 response of your acquired immune system, hey, get busy, how is it sending the message? There are these little mini chemical messengers called cytokines. They have names like interleukin-1, interleukin-2, interferon, that are telling the system, get busy, get over it, get into action. And like I said, glutathione, part of this innate immune system requirement, acquired immune system Th1 response, glutathione helps capture the stray electrons caused by damage to cells. It's this major antioxidant thing. So that if your lung infection is getting too far ahead of you, your glutathione levels might be sort of diminished, sucked up, and if you're running low in either glutathione, zinc, or selenium, then you're going to get more cytokines calling the Th2 response into action. Now, so they're worrying about this cytokine cascade, i.e. too many cytokines calling in too many cells, the immune globulins of the Th2 response and everything. And now those guys are immune globulins. And like I said, they're going to crowd and cause tissue damage. Now, this is the same thing that happens in Crohn's disease, in rheumatoid arthritis, flares. So part of keeping this whole system going, or then dealing with inflammation in all of this, is to say, I got to really support glutathione. Now, how am I going to do that sort of to keep everything from spiraling out of control and doing too much lung damage, as well as preventing the cytokine cascade? We got to really look at supporting the glutathione levels as the Th1 response. You've got 3 ways to do that. First way, and my favorite, is to take an amino acid called glutamine. Now, glutamine is a tasteless white powder. Bodybuilders are always using this to clean up the stray electrons when they're lifting weights a lot. So, but the reason I like glutamine is it improves the glutathione levels in your body. Here's glutamine, one particular brand. As well, it also happens to be lymphocyte, CD8 Pac-Man cell fuel, and it also is repair fuel for the cells of the small intestine, primary repair fuel, secondary repair fuel for large intestine. But your large intestine is where you make immune globulins. So it's part of the response to infection. So one supplement covers glutathione, covers immune cell fuel, and covers immune globulin production. I'll tell you, there's a guy named Doug Wilmore, Dr. Doug Wilmore, full professor of medicine at Harvard, over 200 peer-reviewed publications to his name. He pioneered the use of giving people who are getting a bone marrow transplant, sometimes called a stem cell rescue, giving those people 40 grams a day of glutamine, and they grew their immune system back faster, and while they were living like the bubble baby, they had 50% fewer infections. Remember, you've been chemoed and radiated, so you have zero immune cells, and we're going to give you an eyedropper full of somebody else's. You have to grow your immune system back in a hurry. Glutamine, key for that. I could tell you too many stories about glutamine, but they're all great. People in intensive care units doing better with glutamine. So I just want you to know that's one way to support glutathione, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory in the lungs, pro-immune support agent. The second way to do it is something called NAC, N-acetylcysteine. NAC in the emergency room is used as mucomist, and it rescues the liver from Tylenol poisoning because Tylenol fries the liver cells, and you need glutathione in a hurry to rescue them. Now, NAC was the old-fashioned remedy for bronchitis before we had steroids and antibiotics. So if there was something we could do to squelch inflammation and help everything work better, help the glutathione lung repair system do better, it can be as simple as 2 NAC pills, 500 milligrams, sometimes it's 6. If you're just saying, hey, I want to keep my system supported, I'm going to take 1 pill a day, just as one other system. If for some reason you started to get something like, then jump on it and take 2 a day. I have many patients in my practice who'll say, I'm getting a head cold, this always turns into bronchitis. I went, no, not on my watch. You're going to take 1 teaspoon a day of glutamine, and you're going to take 1 or 2 pills of NAC a day, and squelched, this doesn't become this, and it becomes 6 or 8 weeks of, took me that long to get rid of my head cold. I forgot to say, when it comes to glutamine, 5 grams, 1 teaspoon a day. Side effect of glutamine, you might feel a buzz from your caffeine, your coffee a little bit more. And if you're pregnant, don't take glutamine. It's not studied. Cysteine would be okay. So a third way to make good glutathione levels is to take a probiotic. Probiotics, friendly bacteria pills installed in your gut, those bacteria make cysteine, they make glutamine, they make some glutathione, and that travels from your gut on up the back route to your lungs. Interestingly enough, people that are taking acid-lowering medicines, Zantac, Nexium, things like that, the lack of decent acid levels in the stomach gives you kind of an imbalance and good and bad bacteria in your gut. Not enough good guys making glutathione components, and they're more prone to community-acquired pneumonias. Well, ka-ching, can we squelch a risk factor for community-acquired pneumonias right now? I hope so. And it's a probiotic. Now, there's dozens of products at the store. I'm going to recommend this one, Culturelle. Culturelle is technically a Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG. That's the title, Gorbach and Golden. Again, that's Sherrod Gorbach that I was mentioning at Tufts, so there is a little behind-the-scenes nepotism there if you want. But the reason I'm mentioning this is that there's over 150 clinical trials using Culturelle across the planet. Give it to kids in Bangladesh with rotavirus infection. Their immune function improves, and they squelch the virus before diarrhea and electrolyte imbalances do them in. There are some studies using Culturelle to reduce the spread of respiratory infections in nursing homes. Ka-ching! That sounds pretty great to me. Nobody else. There's a refrigerator full of probiotics costing $40, $50, $60, $70 a box. In the health food stores, they don't have that data to support the quality of their activity. The other thing about the refrigerated models, it's kind of a pet peeve to me. Glutamine comes in these little, blister packs. Culturelle comes in a blister pack. And the idea is that it's not a cold issue, it's a question of whether moisture gets in to the probiotic and causes it to rot or do some other alterations in structure and function. You really want something hermetically sealed like that. So let me keep going in my review here. We've got vitamin D so that you have a robust response from your innate immune system. Now we've got the Th1 response of your acquired immune system, your CD8 cells, your cytotoxic T lymphocytes with great vision, sharp teeth, and great power. So that's your zinc, selenium, and glutathione. And in glutathione, like I said, we're starting to do some squelching of inflammation here so that the whole cytokine cascade doesn't get out of control. And then we're going to do some immune globulin support with some glutamine and some probiotics and everything. I have to say there's one other piece I forgot to mention when I was talking about zinc, and that is that zinc has a little bit of a function in preventing an excessive cytokine cascade as well. And tragically, it seems that COVID-19 itself might have an ability to block some of, let's say, the interferon cytokine, which means you're going to get more of an expression of maybe some other more pesky ones like interleukin-6, things like that. But anyway, one last piece to this conversation, and that is if you are somebody with a heart condition and you're going, I worry about this sort of massive burden of a pneumonia-like condition and lungs struggling here, what's going to become of my heart? Now, there does seem to be some indication that COVID-19 does stress the heart, as many pneumonias do. But is it causing an absolute infection in the heart and you're getting a myocarditis? We don't quite see that yet. But we are seeing heart as a muscle, some tissue damage there, and troponin levels are on the rise. So at any rate, if you're worried about your heart and you're trying to maintain heart function, one of the best things you could ever do for that is something called coenzyme Q10. Now, CoQ10 helps heart as a muscle have more ATP energy, Krebs cycle, for those of you who remember high school biology. I know some of you were a little dysfunctional in high school for whatever reasons, but at any rate, Carl Folkers, University of Texas emeritus guy, had done a bunch of CoQ10 studies. One of them was early on in HIV infection is to say, hey, we see this lymphadenopathy. We see the immune system struggling when HIV disease. We give people CoQ10, 200 milligrams a day. And they watched their immune system recover a little bit and the lymphadenopathy went down a bit. Carl Folkers, in terms of land of heart muscle and function, had a small study, 11 people waiting for a heart transplant, which means their heart is so failing that it can barely pump enough to keep things going. 3 out of the 11 had such an improvement in their classification, 4 back down to 1, of ejection fractions, their morbidity classification, that they did not need a transplant after a few months of this. Like I said, this is not a direct thing to use to slay the virus. This is just saying, hey, I want to keep your body parts that are going to be struggling. If you land somewhere in the continuum of this infection, I want you to know resources. Or if you're a little worried ahead of time. A friend of mine who's a doc who's very worried about this infection because he has asthma and he already knows his lungs are struggling. And so we're saying, Charlie, what? And I said, you should be on NAC for sure, plus your vitamin D. And he got back to me and he said, I'm taking this NAC and I just feel better. There's something going on that's better in me. He said, and I'm not a placebo type. But like I said, he's thinking ahead. What are my risk factors? Where do I have to be a little bit more prepared? And again, that relates to back what we did for 15 years for people with HIV infection. What are all the systems, the glutathione system, their CD8 cells, everything we could do to keep all of that at its sharpest. So again, vitamin D, innate. Zinc, selenium, glutathione for the Th1 part of acquired. Probiotics, glutamine, cysteine for not only glutathione, but also for part of your Th2 response. And like I said, CoQ10 for cardiac support if you think you're at risk. And again, people at risk might be the people taking statins, because their CoQ10 production is a little lower. Or you're over 50. So this is all this higher risk category. So thank you for your attention, and when you're at the vitamin shop somewhere, or you're mail ordering at Vitacost, pick up an extra bottle of vitamin D. For somebody you know that doesn't get outside very often, it's not expensive. A couple months supply is $7 or something like that. So take care of yourselves, and again, thank you for your attention. Covid-19 nutrition.org. I have a website if you need to know more about me too. It's Charlie Nutrition, CHARLIE, charlienutrition.com. And again, take care. Thanks for listening.